let's go ahead and start. So I have, just to kind of give you guys a preview of like what we're gonna go over today. Hi. So just to give you guys a preview of what we have today. So I have a couple of percent problems, a couple of ratio problems, lots of algebra word problems with like fractions and stuff. And then I also have, let's see, I have a couple of math knowledge questions that you guys sent in that were pretty good. So looking forward to trying those. And it looks like I have another rate problem. So it looks like it's like a good mixture of like arithmetic and math knowledge. So we'll go ahead and do that. And like I said, whatever we don't finish, we'll do it tonight. Okay. So the very first question we have says that the total water usage for a city is 50,000 gallons each day. Of that total, 32% is for personal use and 59% is for industrial use. How many more gallons of water each day is consumed for industrial use over personal use? So here we have a rate that is being given. We are being told that we use 50,000 gallons each day. Great. Now, those 50,000 gallons are being split into personal and industrial. For personal use, it's 32%, and for industrial, it's 59%. Now, the question, if you notice, is not really asking about how much is for industrial, how much is for personal. The question is the difference, how much more. So that difference is what we're going to look for. First, we're going to calculate the difference of the percentages. So 59% minus 32% is going to tell me how much more we're using for industrial instead of personal. So this is going to be 7 and this is going to be 2. So this is the difference. This is the percent that we are going to need to calculate. Does that make sense so far? Are there any questions?
No, ma'am.
We're good. Okay. So with that in mind, because this is a percent problem, we are going to use our percent proportion. So the percent proportion is set up as the part over the whole is equal to percent over 100. So what is our whole? Our whole is the total amount of water that is used, which is the 50,000 gallons each day. The percent, we talked about it being the difference between those two. So the percent is going to be the 27% we calculated. And the part is what we're looking for, which is how much more? How much more water? So once we have our proportion set up, we can go ahead and cross multiply and divide. So we're going to cross multiply here and then divide over here. So the amount of water is going to equal to 50,000 times 27, everything divided by 100. This 0 will go away with that 0, and so will this one go away with this one. So what are we left with? 500 times 27. So let's go ahead and do that multiplication. So we're going to have 500 times 27. That'll be 0, 0, 35, and then we'll have 0, 0, 10. 0, 0, 5, 3, 1. So that means that the total amount of water that is being used more for industrial instead of personal is going to equal to 13,500 gallons. Are there any questions on this one? Are we okay with it? Are we clear with it?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. There is another way you could do this problem, which is like you calculate the percent for industrial, you calculate the percent for the personal, and then you subtract at the end. That method will also work. As you can imagine, it's going to be more work. It's going to take up more time. So this one is a little bit faster, but both work. Okay. The next question states, this one looks like it's going to be a rate problem maybe, or a ratio or proportion. They're all solved the same way. A world map has a scale of 1/4 of an inch equals to 250 miles. So right there, they're giving you a rate. They're telling you 1/4 of an inch, that's 250 miles. You measure the distance between New York and Los Angeles, and it equals to 3 inches. what is the real distance between New York and LA? So we are comparing two different units. There's a trade going on, which means that we're going to use a proportion to solve this problem. So in my proportion, I'm going to compare the inches to the actual miles. So up on top, I have that 1/4 inch is equal to 250 miles. And they tell me that the distance in inches is 3. And we're looking for how many miles is that actually going to be. Now you have two options here. You can either just work with the fraction, or you can turn that fraction into a decimal and then work with the decimal. Either way, you're going to get the same answer. Either way, it's going to be equally as fast. But as always, I let you guys decide which way you want to go. So do you want to go the fraction route, or do you want to go the decimal route?
Whichever is easier.
Fraction.
They're both equally as easy. Okay, I heard fraction. Yay, I always like fractions more. Okay, so let's go ahead and cross multiply and divide. In my opinion, fractions are always easier, but some people don't agree with me. So the number of miles is going to equal to 250 times 3, everything divided by 1/4. So let's take care of the multiplication at the top first. 250 times 3, that's 0. That's 15. Carry the 1. That's 6 plus 1 is 7. So we have 750 divided by 4. Sorry, divided by 1/4. Now, because we have a fraction that's dividing a fraction, we're going to do keep, change, flip. So we're going to keep the 750, and we're going to multiply by, we're going to flip this upside down. So now it's going to be 4/1, or in other words, just 4. So now we just have to do 750 times 4. That'll be 0. That'll be 20. Carry the 2. 28 plus 2 is 30. So in total, we have equal to 3,000 miles. So again, in my opinion, this was easier, but maybe some of you guys feel more comfortable with decimals. That's okay. You can do it with the decimal too. So it's 3,000 miles, this one. Okay. All right. Questions so far? Anything confusing you? Anything that doesn't make sense to you?
It's all good.
That's good. All righty. Let's keep going. All right, for our next one, we have that for $60, there is an additional 10% charge when the coat is bought on credit. What is the total cost to a credit customer? So they're going to add on the 10% for the $60 coat. So we're going to have another percent problem. So we're going to, again, use the part over whole proportion. The total cost was $60, so that's going to be your whole. Now, notice what the question is asking. The question is asking, what is the total cost? So I want to ask you guys, do you think we should use the percent as 10, or should we use something else for the percent?
You use the percent as a decimal.
Well, we are going to use, well, no, we don't have to change it to a decimal. You only have to change it to a decimal when you're doing simple interest. When you're in the percent proportion, you're good to just leave it as 10.
Okay.
But my question is, when I set up the proportion, right? When we set up our proportion, we have 60 here, we have 100 here.
You mean
My
110?
Okay, so we're going to use 110%. Now, why are we using 110%? Because this is an additional 10% charge, which means if you just put 10%, the value you're going to get here is just going to be the charge. It's not going to be the total cost. You would have to then grab that charge, add it to the $60, then you have your answer. But instead, you can save yourself that trouble. And instead you say, well, if I add 100% plus the 10% additional charge, I get 110%. And that's going to give me my total cost. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Cool. So we're back to our usual, which is we're going to cross multiply and then divide. So the total cost will equal to 60 times 110, everything divided by 100. 0 goes away with 0. 0 goes away with 0. So the total cost will equal to 6
66.
times 11, which is going to equal to $66. And I put the decimal with the 2 zeros simply because we're talking money, but even if you left it as just 66, you're perfectly fine. There's no problem with that.
Okay.
Okay. So again, whenever you're working with a percent and they mention that there's like an additional fee or an additional charge or an additional tax or whatever they want to call it, whenever you see the word additional, you're like, okay, I need to add that to 100%. That's my percent.
Because when you do it with just 10%, you only get 6.
Yeah, because the 6 is how much you have to add to it. That's like the charge, but that's not the total cost.
All right.
Whenever you see that you have a problem with like, oh, it's a discount or it was on sale or you had a coupon or whatever, that's the opposite. Instead of adding to 100%, you're going to subtract from 100%. So let's say you had a problem that said like, oh, you have a t-shirt is $20, but it's 10% off. So then you would say, okay, well, 100% minus 10 is 90. 90 is the percent that you're going to put into your proportion. Is that clear?
Yep.